Okay, so now I want to put in some ceilings, and we'll talk about putting in ceilings. So if we put in ceilings and we're in our floor plan, so right now I'm in my Plan A2 schematic, we're not going to be able to see them because probably want to put it in at about 9 or 10 feet depending on the floor to floor. So let's go look at the floor to floor. I'll go to my south elevation, and we're on Plan A2, right? And we're going up to Plan A3. So that is a 12-foot difference, so 15 to 27. So we have a pretty generous plate there. There's going to be a floor that's sitting below that. So let's say that we want that the floor is 6 inches deep. There might be a beam in there, so there's some things that you have to keep into consideration. Let's say we need 1 foot 6, so we're going to have a 9 foot 6. Let's say we're going to set our ceiling at 9 foot 6 in the corridor. All right, so I'll close my south elevation, and I could actually place it here. I just won't be able to see it. I need to go to a ceiling plan, which the view range is reversed, so it's actually cutting and looking up instead of cutting and looking down. So I'm going to go to my Plan A2, right? And so you'll notice that it changes. First of all, there are lines through the doors, and you can see the beams, right? Because now we're looking up instead of down, and it is reflected. I try not to think about that too much because it melts my brain. But we're looking up. If we look at the view range and edit that, you'll see that right now the cut plane is set to 6'8". If I set it to like 8 foot and hit apply, the doors go away because now I'm cutting above the doors. So if I set it to 7 foot, hit apply, now it's cutting right at the top of the doors, so you can see the doors, but you see the walls as solid. If I go to 6'8" and hit apply, now it's cutting kind of through the doors and looking up at the top of the door, so you still see the lines in the door. So, and then we're kind of looking up, past these other areas, okay? Um, and then you can see that it's going to up to Plan A3, right? So it's going and looking all the way up to Plan A3. So I'm going to click OK here. And then what I want to do is I want to put a ceiling in this area right here. And this is actually an option 1 area. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and go to option 1, primary, right? And so you'll see this area, and then what I want to do is go to my ceiling, and I'm going to pick the compound ceiling, drywall on metal stud, and we'll do the height offset at 9'6". Okay. And then the automatic ceiling should come in and it will analyze, and if there is a closed area in here, it will find it, and if I left click, it should place that ceiling in there. So it has placed the ceiling in. It doesn't look like it has, but it really has. The issue is that these beams are actually that low, like they go down that far. So I'm going to go and double click on this section. So we're going to look and see where that ceiling is. So you can see where the ceiling has been placed, and you can see it's coincident with those beams. So here's an issue, right? Like if those beams actually come down that far and you want to get mechanical running all the way through here, then you're going to have to drop this ceiling even more than 9'6", right? So if I come in and take it to 8'6", right now it drops below, and if I go back to my Plan A2, you can't see through it to the beams. The beams, suddenly stop, right, and go through there. So those are some of the considerations you're going to have to take into account. Like, how is the mechanical getting through there? Like, does it actually get dropped? Does some other sort of mitigating circumstances start to help out with that? 8 foot's pretty low. So, or maybe the mechanical runs from some side vent or something like that. So that's just something you need to keep into consideration. If I go back to my Plan A2, again, I'm in my option 1. If I go to my option 2, this is a different setup. So maybe this here has a lower ceiling and this has a higher ceiling. So in this case, I would go into my ceiling command, and I couldn't really do the whole ceiling like this. So I might have to sketch it, right? I could sketch it and go to like a pick line or a pick wall and come in and pick walls to do it. Or I'm just going to cancel this ceiling. Or I could go into my wall, right? And I'll just use the exterior 8-inch. And I want the base constraint to be A2. I want the base offset, let's just put it at 8'6", right? And it's going to go up to plan level A3, and it's sit to the finished face interior. So so now I'm drawing sort of a 3'6" wall, right? That's actually like a little header wall. So it goes from 8'6" up to the ceiling. I'm on a reflected ceiling plan. So now I could come to my ceiling, and if I do automatic ceiling, it now sees that wall as a separation, and I can set that ceiling. Again, we were looking at 8'6" previously, set that a little lower, right? And then maybe this ceiling gets set up to, at least 10 feet, if not, 10'6" or something, since there's really no beams. But it's oops, not 1'6", sorry, 10'6", right? And click on that. And so now in my option 2, let me hit escape a couple of times. Let's go ahead and I don't want ceiling anymore. Let's go to modify and stop that. Now maybe I just do a quick section through here, right? And then let's double click on that, and so now you see I've got this ceiling, the wall, right, and then this ceiling, and so you're starting to get a variation in volume there. This guy, you can attach top base to the floor again, and this is so close to the floor, maybe it does go all the way up, so you don't even have a ceiling in here, it's just exposed flooring, and somehow you're side feeding the vent, through here. So lots of different, sort of ways of dealing with the ceilings. If you need like a really custom ceiling or something like that, I'll talk about that next. You can do a component model in place, or you can actually do an extruded roof if it's a constant section. So I'll maybe talk about that in the next one.